This lecture is regarding a power supply. You can see here there are two power supply, a regulated DC power supply by AppLab. This is also by AppLab. So this is actually a regulated DC power supply with different varieties of power supply. You can see here. So this is actually a single power supply. You can see here a voltage course button in here, voltage fine button in here. This is current course and current fine. We have to put the current course and current fine at maximum so that the output from this particular terminal, this is plus and this is minus, so it will give us a maximum current and voltage that is set over here by using coarse and fine button. So these are the buttons. Extra special things about this AppLab CRO is that we have 4.5 volt to 5.5 volt power supply. It is different. Dedicated pins are this. So from that we have to adjust this, or we have to press this button to have dedicated pins to be given as a 5 volt or 4.9 volt or 4.5 to 5.5 volt output. And this is a 12 power supply, 12 to 15 volt. It may be a plus or it may be a minus. You can see here this is plus, this is common, and this is a minus. So this is minus, this, and this is common terminal. So by pressing this plus 15 we can adjust 12 to 15 knob to have plus supply, and by pressing this we can have a minus supply. So this is the specialty of this AppLab power supply. So basic simple power supply is like this. We can have a voltage course and current limit. We have to put the current limit to maximum. This will be the voltage, this will be the minus, plus and minus. It is having a capacity up to 32 volt and 3 ampere max. Same thing in here. You can see here this is the same, we can say a dual, or we can say twins. So this is again a voltage course and voltage course, and it is a current limit. So we can have maximum put in over here. So plus will give us a plus supply from it, and this minus will give us a ground. Actually again the same 32 volt, and it is actually a 2 ampere maximum. So these are the two power supply. Many power supplies are available from the different manufacturers. You can study according to your. This is a single power supply. You can look it here. This is the coarse button. I have minimized it. This is fine button. I have minimized it, and we need to put the current towards the maximum. So I have put coarse and fine button to maximum. So I'm going to put the fine button at the middle so that I can adjust into negative as well as into positive direction. So I'm going to adjust up to suppose a 5 volt. So I'm going to adjust the coarse button in a such a way that it should be very close to the 5, and then using fine button I can adjust the fine thing that it will become a 5. Now look at here, this is a 5 volt, so this will be the plus and this will be the minus. So that will give us a 5 volt supply from this particular power supply. You can see here this is a 32 volt and 1 ampere maximum rating of this power. So look at here, this is again one power supply that I have explained in the front panel. So this is a regulated DC power supply. We can adjust using coarse and fine button over here. So if I am going to adjust to 10 volt, look at here, I am doing a fine adjustment at the middle, then the coarse adjustment, so that will do a very minimum adjustment to adjust at 10 volt. So put kept in mind that at that time the current knob is at the maximum, so this plus and minus will give us a 10 volt DC power supply. So look at here, this is again the other power supply, special power supply. This is actually, it is having a 15 volts. You can see here, if I press the 15 I can adjust from this 12 to 15 knob, so that I can adjust from actually 12 to plus 15, and by pressing the minus 15 I can adjust it from minus 12 to minus 15. So you can see here, if I adjust minus 12 in here, very precisely we have to adjust because there is no fine button for this particular signal generator at this part. So I'm going to adjust very slowly to minus 12 actually, and then I'm going to press the actually plus 15 button. Plus 15 button is used to adjust the plus 12. So look at here, so these are used for the plus, this is for the minus, and this is for the common. So now if I press the 5 volt I can adjust it using 4.5 to 5.5 volt. You can see here the output is from plus and minus. If I am going to adjust it to what we required, so it is actually for the digital socket we required a 5 volt. So this actually this supply can be useful where we required dual power supply, single power supply, as well as a 5 volt power supply. In case of a telemetry experiment, we required so many power supplies. So in that case, we can adjust this particular 5 volt power supply, provide 0 to 4 to 20 milliampere by using 0 to 5 volt adjustment from this power supply. So this is the apply power supply, which having very much functions like from 5 volt to 12 to 15 plus minus, as well as from regulated DC power supply, it will provide us 32 volt 2 ampere signals. So this is the way the AppLabs multifunction generator, or we can say multi power supply over here. So in our lab we also have analog power supply. So this is a dual analog power supply, where we have the very old power supply, where is coarse and fine button for this particular supply, and this is a coarse and fine button for this supply. This is a current limit, we can set it to maximum. This is current limit, we can set it to maximum value. So this will be plus, this is minus. Actually this is the old one, so this is earthing, we are not going to use it. Say same in case of this, where we have plus, minus and earthing. So I am adjusting to 5 volt, you can see here. So I'm not going to use the earthing plus and minus. So similarly in this case as well. This is another one equipment that we use in the lab. This is a multimeter, so where we can use the multifunctions. You can see here a DC volt, we can measure the voltage DC as well as AC volt, we can measure AC voltage. Then we can measure the resistance over here, we can measure the capacitances, we can measure the temperature. So this is not meant to you measure the capacitance. The other multimeters are there, yeah, that is used to measure the capacitance in the multimeter as well. We can measure the temperature, so here is a temperature. So for the temperature we required temperature sensor actually, so it is connected in between temp plus and temp minus. What we can check, we can check the diode. Here is a symbol of a diode, we can check the diode is working or not. We can say the diode, by measuring the forward resistance and back reverse resistance, we can check the diode is working or not, or damaged. And continuity, where this symbol, the sound symbol indicates the continuity, we can measure the continuity, or we can test the continuity inside the socket. So the current, in the current case, we can measure the microampere to milliampere to ampere. So there are several functions are there. So these are for the 10 amperes. This is for the actually milliampere and micro. So we have different for the current. So this is category 2 device. So you can see how to measure the resistances. You can see here we have to put it into the resistance part, then we have to put positive part in here of the probe and negative part at this. So it will indicate us a value called as a resistance of that particular device. The resistance again. For third selection, we'll measure the continuity range. You can select the range of the resistance from ohm, mega ohm to kilo ohm. By default, it will calculate mega ohm. Then we can check the current. At that time, the positive supply, we can say positive probe should be connected to millimicro or 10 ampere. Finally, we can measure the temperature. So for that temperature, we need a temperature sensor. This probe cannot be used to measure the temperature. So that particular temperature minus is connected over here, so that we can measure the temperature sensor. At that time, we have to put the direction. For measuring the DC volt, we have to put it in a volt, positive volt. For AC as well as positive volt. For resistance, diode and continuity testing, same condition. For micro, we have to move it from positive, we have to put it the micro or milli. So it is same for the milli as well. For ampere, we have to put it in the 10 amperes slot. And finally, for the temperature, take another sensor that should be put into temp plus and temp minus. So this probe are not going to measure the temperature plus minus. Okay, so we need a temperature sensor. I am plugging it out. Look at here, it is indicating degrees centigrade. 0L means it's open now. We have not connected any kind of sensors in here. Here is a temperature sensor which positive is connected to positive is for temperature plus and negative to. So you can see here the temperature is now 23 degrees centigrade. If I hold in my hand, temperature will increase. Holding it my hand, showing 27, 28, 29. It's slowly increasing. Using this particular sensors, we can use temperature in this particular. So 06. If I release, so it's not going to suddenly decrease. It will decrease very slowly as the response of this temperature sensor is a good one, but it is not going to decrease very fastly. So slowly it will going to get decreased. It will come to the room temperature after few minutes. This is the way we can use this multimeter for measurement of DC volt, AC volt, resistor continuity diode, microampere, milliampere, ampere, and temperature. Some may have facility for measurement of capacitance.